Good evening, my name is Pratik Garai and I'm a third year student at VIT Chennai, and today I'm going to take you through a brief introduction of the Flower framework, which is used to implement federated learning using Python. So before we start with Flower, let's see what federated learning is and how it differs from the traditional machine learning approach. So in the traditional machine learning approach, what happens is that the clients or the end devices give their private data to a server. The server aggregates all of it and feeds it inside a machine learning model. However, it poses some critical threats to the user's privacy because the server might be attacked and the data might be leaked. The server might itself have malicious intent and sell away the user's data, or the data might get intercepted when it is being transferred from the server from the client to the server. So federated learning architecture comes to rescue here. In federated learning, what happens is that rather than transferring the data, the server itself will give away the models to the client. The clients will individually train the model locally, and they will send back the trained models back to the server. So the private data of the users never leave the device and it is protected. Upon receiving all of the models from all the users, the server will use an aggregation algorithm or a unification algorithm to find best fit model, which is an average of all the models that it has received, which performs well compared to all the models that it has received, and the model becomes better. So basically both ends, the server as well as clients, get their job done. The server gets a better model that has been trained on users' private data, and for the users, their privacy is protected, and the service that is being provided by the company or by the server improves because that data has contributed to the model. So indirectly, without data loss, the entire machine learning process enhances. So because we are going to go through Flower, it's important to understand why I chose Flower compared to other frameworks that are available out there. The biggest advantage is that it is framework agnostic. So no matter whichever framework is being used for machine learning, whether it's PyTorch, whether it's TensorFlow, whether it's MXNet, whether it's vanilla NumPy, whichever one it is, Flower is agnostic of all of them. With just a few lines of code, any kind of machine learning algorithm or any kind of machine learning pipeline can be converted to a federated one using Flower. And the second advantage is that it is highly customizable. So whatever kind of training strategy that we want to apply, whichever kind of unification strategy that we want to apply, it can be easily customized using Flower, because Flower's API has a very easy approach to modify all the parameters that we need to control. Coming to the architecture of the Flower server contains a strategy object, and the Flower client contains a Flower client object and the local data. So this Flower client object will get the model from the server and will train it using the local data and send it back. And in the middle we can see that we have an RPC connection. Now this RPC connection is very important because often the server will have to trigger events on the client side, and we cannot do it usually due to security restrictions. And apart from that, it has to be a secure call, and that is why we use RPC. So for RPC connections, Flower uses the gRPC module. So gRPC is a modern open source high performance RPC framework that can run in any environment. So it can run on Windows, it can run on Linux, it can run on Android, anywhere on any operating system this module can operate, and that is why Flower uses it, which makes Flower highly extensible and usable on any kind of platform. So this gRPC network, this gRPC module, it allows the Flower server to call and execute the various various steps of the training process, and also when the server needs to analyze the current state of the model, if it wants to test how accurate the model is, the server itself does not possess any data with itself. So in order to test it, the server will have to send that model to the client and trigger a test analysis function there, and that is where this RPC comes to the rescue. So if you see the client architecture, the client object that the traditional Flower client has, so it's basically a Python object that extends on the NumPy client class. And and why do we use NumPy client? Because it uses NumPy on its core. Every Python framework, every Python deep learning framework uses NumPy at its core. So that's why it's named NumPy client. So Flower client is an extension of that, and it has 3 procedures defined inside it. 3 procedures as in basically 3 methods that we have to override, which are called get parameters, fit, evaluate. The get parameters is used to download the current state of the model from the server. The fit is used to take this downloaded weight that we got and train the model on top of it. So it uses the private data and trains the model that we have on the device currently and sends it back to the server once the training is done. And this evaluate, as I mentioned earlier, is called by the server when we need to test the state of the model, how well it is acting. It calls this method and it gets the model tested based on the user's private data. Now coming to the server contains an averaging algorithm which determines how to average out the various models that the server has got from the different devices that took part in the training process. Clients and the servers will connect using the gRPC connection. So this gRPC connection is SSL protected, it's completely secure. So this will allow each of them to execute methods on each other. And once the minimum number of clients have joined, which is 2, because if we want to average out something, if we want an average model, we need to have at least 2 clients to participate on a training. At least that's the case with Flower. So once the required number of clients have connected to the server using the gRPC connection, the server will start the training process. Now coming to the demo, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the MNIST dataset, which is the handwritten digits dataset, and I'm going to run a classification model on top of it over Flower. So I'm going to go for a non-IID path because I want to show how Flower actually does the averaging. So turns out that in a machine learning model, if one type of data is more representative, is represented more as in the number of samples than the other one, when it is tested, the accuracy for the lower represented classes fall. They fall drastically. And user data is often non-IID because users have their own preferences. They tend to use a particular pattern more than other, which causes an imbalance in the data. So in order to simulate that, I'm going to use 2 different clients which have 2 opposing kinds of distribution of data inside them. And then I'm going to see how the entire training process acts. So moving on to the code. So let's first go to the code. So on the code side, first let's come to the server. I'll zoom in a bit. Yep. Okay, so coming to the server code, we first import the libraries that are needed. So I am importing Flower because that's the code library, and then I'm importing sys and numpy. So I'll be using both of them to save the model, which I'm going to discuss here. So first we begin with defining a strategy object, a strategy class. So this strategy will control how the entire training process goes, and because I don't want to define my own algorithm right now, Flower itself has the basic algorithm fed averaging, which averages cell by cell all the models together. So I'll be using that, but I'll be adding an extra feature to it. So what I'm going to do is, after the aggregate fit happens, when the aggregate fit happens, basically aggregate fit is when I get the fit data, that is the training parameters from all the different clients. After the aggregation is done, this method is run. So once the weights have been aggregated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the NumPy library and save the data as a checkpoint, and then I'm going to return the aggregated weights, because those aggregated weights will be used by the other modules of Flower. So once I have defined that class, once I've defined how the entire strategy acts, I'm going to create an object out of that class, and then I'm going to start my server. So for that I just run fl.server.startServer. So this takes in 4 arguments, the first one being the server address, so basically the place where the server's entry endpoint would open. So it would be, I'll be doing the entire thing over localhost, and the port number I'll receive it as a command line argument. Then the configuration object. This configuration object as of now supports only one parameter, which is the number of rounds. So basically the number of iterations as to how many times we'll call all the clients for training and how many times we'll aggregate weights from them. So I'm passing 5 here. Then gRPC. So gRPC sends commands over via messages, right? So the maximum message length. So this message length will also carry with itself the weights of the models. So this message length has to be long enough so that it supports, so that it is able to cover the parameters of the entire model, because sometimes it may not be able to do so. So if the model is big, we might have to increase this limit. If the model is smaller, we can try reducing it in order to save bandwidth. And then finally the strategy object that is there. So finally the strategy is going to be an object of the class that we have defined here. Now coming to the client side, just as the server had its own start server, a client has its own start NumPy client. So NumPy, because it's working using NumPy arrays, interchange of NumPy arrays are going to happen, and it takes in 3 arguments, the first one being the server address. So this is the endpoint which it has to hit to get the training data, so it's going to be the same localhost and then the port address that I'm going to provide it. And then we have the client object, so it's going to be an object of Flower client, which I have defined here. I'll be going through the structure of Flower client. And then we have the gRPC message length, and it has to be the same as to that of the server. So the server has 1024 cube and the client should also have 1024 cube. Otherwise the message length will not match and gRPC will not accept it. Now coming to the structure of a client, it is a child class of NumPy client which is defined inside Flower. And as I had mentioned in the PPT, it overrides 3 methods: get parameters. So the get parameters will just return model.getWeights. Then we have the fit method. So the fit method will receive the parameters and the config as an argument. So basically the weights as well as this configuration object that we have defined here, which has the number of rounds as 5, both of them are passed to the fit method. So not only just the number of rounds, we can also pass down other things like time, and then maybe some ID regarding which round it is, or maybe the ID of the client, some token that has been assigned to the client, etc., etc. All of that can be passed through this configuration object. So first what happens inside the fit method is the parameters which are received are first loaded onto the model schema. So we have the schema defined here at the top. So here you can see the model schema has been defined, but it does not have the weights that have been sent by the server. So first we set those weights. So essentially we get the model that was there located on the server. Then we fit that model, we train that model using the data using the local data of the client, and then I am printing the statistics here because I want to show you one of the results. And then I return the model weights, the current model weights, the number of samples that the model has been trained on, and an empty dictionary. This empty dictionary as of now is because I do not want to pass back any data to the server, but I could fill in all sorts of data here, like authentication tokens, then the client ID, any error message that I may want to send back to the server. All of that can be filled in here. And finally we have the evaluate method, the one which is called by the server if they want some analytics from all the clients. So here too, first we take the schema and we fit it with the current state of the global model. Then we calculate the loss and accuracy on the test set that is available on the client. Then I'm just printing it here for logging reasons, and then I'm going to return the loss to the server, the number of tests that has been conducted, and the accuracy. So these are the things which will be used by the server for analytics purposes. So this was all about the client structure. Now I'll take you through this part. This is an important part. So what this part is going to do is, we see the distribution here, right? So this distribution array controls what kind of data from NumPy from MNIST are we going to take in for training. So here you can see xtrain, ytrain, xtest, ytest is basically the entire MNIST data set. But in the PPT I had shown that I am going to use clients which have different distributions of data, right? So this array controls it, and then I pass this array along with the xtrain and ytrain inside this get data method, and this get data method will send me the appropriate distribution for the data. And that data, that xtrain and ytrain, will be used here over and over again for the training purpose. So this is client 1. Client 2, which is going to be the second device, has the entire same code, the only difference here being the distribution here. And you can see the distribution here differs from that of client 1. Here some other fields have been set to thousands, while some of them are lagging at like 0 and 10. And here we have some other methods, some other elements at thousands, while some others are at 10, at a lower level at 10. And we can see the same kind of distribution here. So basically it's the physical manifestation of this graph on code. So now that we have gone through the code, let's go to the real implementation. Let's go to the real testing. So what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to launch the server.py, and I had mentioned that I will be passing the port number, localhost port number here as a command line argument. So I'll pass it on 5002, and then I would run client 1, the same thing on localhost 5002, and I would run client 2 on localhost 5002. So basically first we see a lot of warning messages because my laptop does not support a GPU, and TensorFlow is first looking for a GPU before it starts training. So we can ignore those messages for now. And now I'll launch the second one as well. Okay, let's see, it's not running. Okay, so now that both the clients have been executed, so we see a graph. So this graph essentially tells us what kind of distribution of data the particular client has before we proceed for training, just as a sanity check. And we can see this this distribution essentially matches that of the one that has been shown on the PPT. Now if I close it, the entire process will begin. So now that the first one closed, we can see that one of the clients has connected to the server, and now if I close the second one, both of the clients have connected to the server. And now we wait for 5 rounds to happen. We can see fit history has been printed. That means 1 round has been completed out of 5. So let's wait for the entire process to complete. Okay, round 2, round 3, and at the end of every round we can also see the message that was defined inside the strategy, that it's saving the weights inside a file just as a part of checkpoint. And we have successfully saved round 5, and with this the training process is essentially completed. So now I wanted to print fit history and evaluation history to show one very important thing. So the thing is, when we see this distribution here, we can see that there are 5 out of 10 classes. There are 5 classes which are very well represented in both the cases. Like 5 of them have been very well represented, while the rest 5 are not so well represented. So what happens is, when we test it on the global data, only the ones which have been trained well, which have been fed in with a lot of data, only those classes are predicted properly, while the other ones don't. And that is the reason why although on the training set the accuracy was very high, 94% accuracy is what we got, when it was tested on the validation set, which had all the 10 classes. So basically this accuracy is, we train on 5 classes, we test on 5 classes. So there we get 94% accuracy. And this one is, we train on 5 classes but we test on 10. And that is where the accuracy drops to 50. And this is bad. So this proves that if a bias exists inside a user's model, it might not be the best model, and that is why we need federated learning. So what happens after this first round happens, this weight is sent to the server. The server then combines it to that of the second client. So what happens is, the knowledge from this model and the knowledge from this model, both of them are combined together, and due to that a better model originates, which gives us a better accuracy of 83%. So the combined model that exists on the server, it gives us a better accuracy of 83%. And as time goes by, that model's accuracy, this eval accuracy, is the global model's accuracy. That accuracy keeps on growing and growing. So even though the data was divided into 2 parts, even though the data of a particular client was only capable of going to like 50 or 60% accuracy, when we combine data from different clients, we managed to get a very good result, and that too in just 5 rounds. In 5 rounds we managed to get 94. It might reach to even 98 or 99 eventually. So that is it for the demonstration of federated learning over MNIST dataset using Flower framework. And yeah, thank you.